Hi, hello, friend. This is weekly live series from Lawyers Design School. It's legal design thinking in real life. I'm your host, Hannele Korhonen, and I'm the founder and CEO of Lawyers Design School. Today, I'm here with a very interesting guest. The guest today is Laura Hartnett from Law by Design. We will talk about the role of legal design in practice. What can legal design offer for legal teams and their work? Hi, Laura, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate this. I've been a longtime fan and it was great. We got to meet just a couple of weeks ago at a conference and that was such a thrill for me. So I'm thrilled to talk to you here as well.
That was so funny. We met in ClearCon a few weeks ago, and that was because we had never met in person before, only online, and we were like seeing eye to eye on for so many things. So it's great to have you here today.
It's great. Thank you again.
Maybe we could start by a brief presentation. Could you give us like Laura Hartnett one-on-one for us?
Yes, yes. So I am the founder and legal consultant at Law by Design. From my history, I started off in management consulting. So I started off doing things like change management, project management, organizational design, lots of business process reengineering. As my friends got confused, they thought I was a spy of some sort. They're like, "What is that? You just made that up." But my whole goal as a management consultant was to make organizations better, sometimes faster, more efficient. That's what my background was. So from there, I went to law school, because of course, and practiced law for about 10, 12 years or so. But I never lost that background where I still wanted to make the organizations better. And so I never quite turned that off while I was practicing law. I practiced law both in private practice in a large international firm, and then I went in-house. And then from there, it thought I'd combine the two. So now I am only a consultant for lawyers using at its core legal design.
Great combination of this management consultancy and a lawyer background. I can imagine that you can so use both of these backgrounds. So, would you like to tell us something about the law by design? What's the history
Yeah.
and what are you doing?
So it's funny, and I go back to you think back through your history and you don't know how these pieces add up until you look back and go, that's what it was leading to. It started in private practice where we kept reinventing the same thing over and over, because in it, and I wouldn't say it's through any fault of lawyers, we're not trained in law school. I think it's getting better. And I think the US, frankly, is a little bit behind the ball on this one. I've seen Europe, I've seen Australia really get more in front of having more practical skills in law school. So I'm a huge proponent of that. But we didn't even know how to make status updates for our clients. And again, having that management consultant background, I wanted to make, okay, let's make a one-page chart that is our status update on this litigation. I was a litigator. And lawyers kind of would bend their head and look at me like, oh, I guess that makes sense. But they wanted to write a full memo. They thought that the clients would read the multi-page memo updating on the litigation. And I'm going, I don't think so. There's an easier way for us. There's an easier way for clients. So then when I went in-house, I was the client of the outside law firm. And it was just one of those watershed moments when I gave a project to our outside counsel and they came back to me with one of those. It was a 10-page memo that had, I think the conclusion was sort of buried on page 3 of what I really wanted. And I was working in insurance in the time, and insurance in the US is governed by state law. So you have 50 different states making 50 different laws. Well, in my brain, that lends itself really well to a chart, of having a chart of each of the states. Paragraphs and a long memo just gets really confusing when you have that kind of patchwork of laws. So I'm looking at this memo going, I didn't want this. We have to
I didn't
take
ask for it.
didn't ask. I wanted the answer, not like this. I had to turn it around to my clients really quickly. And I had to put it into a PowerPoint slide as part of their presentation, then to their executive clients from there. And that's when, kind of putting these things together, I thought, we're practicing law all kinds of wrong. At that same time, too, the company that I was working for was really starting with design thinking. And they were really pushing this training and really getting it out there. And my clients were using design thinking to work with customers, how to sell insurance, how to make the experience better, everything that you can think of, let's say you have an auto accident and you should be able to open your app and it automatically tells your location and sends you an Uber to pick you up, and you can load pictures of the accident right into the app. That experience that now with Amazon and Netflix and all these companies, we just demand and expect. How can we do that in insurance, which is almost like insurance banking? We think of those old stalwarts. So here I was having clients, internal clients, innovating. So I took that back to the legal department saying, this is for us too. Legal design isn't, or design thinking rather, isn't just for our clients, it's for us. So I started holding workshops and starting thinking through how can we as a legal department really pivot to give our clients what they want. And that's what the simple and really my entry level, a lot of what you do is how do we reshape what we write? Because that at its fundamental is the core of what a lot of legal work does. From there, I've really branched out to, exactly as you said, more of the management consulting background of how do we design processes? How do we use technology as attorneys that is designed to make our clients have a better experience? And also, my other part too is how do we have the lawyers have a better experience in the process?
Yeah, because there are two sides for that coin. There are the clients, but there are also lawyers who desperately need redesign of the work.
That's really it. And I know we were talking a little bit before too about, how do you define? It's hard to talk to non especially to non-legal professionals, and even talking with legal professionals and saying we do legal design, and they're going, well, what is that? And for me, I think of it as how do we make lawyering better for both clients and for legal professionals? Because I think it's both sides, and we can start, the easy place is to start and see where the clients are unhappy, or where we should make the experience, where should we make the contract actually readable for them. Such a good idea. But then I feel like we miss the piece sometimes when we fail to look inside to what lawyers need, because a lot of it is in our training. Again, going through law school, we're very focused. We've got one way of doing things. Then we go to the practice of law and we learn from those who've been practicing for 20, 30 years. Follow how I did it, which frankly tends to be very white, privileged, male dominated industry. So I also see this as a point to include women, to include historically underrepresented groups, as a way of saying, I don't want to practice law that way. It's not good for my clients and it's not good for myself. So let's figure out a way to do that. So that I love that truly the long form would be human-centered design thinking. And I never want to lose that human aspect of it.
Oh, I love everything everything you say. But coming back to that, what I thought that was very interesting. You said about the pivotal moment for you when you realized that lawyers cannot summarize or make these like reports like one pagers. And I see this all the time in the workshops and trainings that I do, that it's so difficult because it also requires you to, I don't know, maybe leave something out. You have to have the guts to say that, okay, this is not important. Let's keep what really matters to the client.
Right. And I think that starts with it. I think my definition of legal design has evolved. At first, when I first learned it, I thought this is a process. It is these 5 steps or these 7 steps, or you see it written so many different ways, but it's really a mindset. And I know what you help people do too is get in that mindset of, before you start naming 74 legal risks, like before you start drafting those, you need to ask better questions of your client. Really get inside their head and understand what's important to them, understand what they're not telling you, because clients will lie, clients will withhold information, sometimes because they're trying to, they don't want to tell you, but sometimes because they just don't think it's relevant. So how to color in those edges to really understand what's important to the client. And then I think, to your point, it becomes easier to focus on and align which risks you want to propose, because you might pick what you think are maybe even the top 3 risks. Once you know more about the client, you might pick risks 1, 2, and 17 to present to them. And it is a mindset and a different way of thinking.
It all starts with the mindset. Other parts come after that, but you have to have the right mindset to start doing that. Well, in these live sessions, we're all about concrete examples of using legal design or human-centered design in practice. How are you using legal design in your business and with your clients?
Yeah, I can use an example from this summer. I was brought into a project that I don't want to, it didn't necessarily stall, but there were consultants working with a team of government attorneys, um, that they wanted to implement new technology, and they were really frustrated because they couldn't get answers out of the attorneys. They were asking the attorneys, well, what technology do you want and what functions do you want? And from my perspective, I got to chuckle a little bit, and I go, look, lawyers are never going to tell you unless they're very skilled, and maybe they're kind of like patent attorneys and technology and privacy attorneys. They're not going to tell you what technology they want. They don't know what the solution is. They don't think in that mind. They're trying to write 10-page memos, right? So I came in, and again, that human-centered design and asking better questions. My approach was to take it, if technology is down here, I wanted to take it up a couple of levels, and then it's our job to interpret what the technology is. So, one thing, and I invite everyone to use as well, is I always love going back to thorns, buds, and roses. So roses, what do you love about your job? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Why are you an attorney? Why are you a paralegal? Why do you work here? You could work other places. Why do you work here? I want the answers to those questions. And then I want the thorns. I want to know, what stinks about your job? What do you come home to your family at night and what do you complain about? What are those? And then what are those buds? Like, you have ideas. You're at the water cooler saying, did you see that email? Why are they doing it that way? Why don't they do this other way? There are so many good ideas embedded in organizations, and that's our job to pull those out. So I took a little bit of a 180 on this project that ultimately was about technology and making the experience better. But when they approached it at technology, they weren't getting there. Once we went up that level and collected these thorns, buds, and roses, we started to see, oh, for example, we learned how much they loved having they lived in their calendar and their to-do list. Oh, well, we need to make sure that the system is aligned, and it doesn't, there were things where there were multiple layers of a calendar and it was getting really confusing. And we understood, you've got some very busy litigators who live and die by their calendar. Okay, that needs to be the focus of the technology. The lawyers would have never told you that directly. But once we ask those, frankly, human questions, almost like you'd meet somebody at a cocktail party and get to know them, that's our job on the back end, is to interpret then what that means and how that can work. So, and again, I invite everyone, if they get stuck, to use thorns, buds, and roses to kind of get up a level and then do the interpretation to dive in.
Oh, that's a perfect example, because I've also been involved in so many technology projects, because technology is never about the technology. It's always about people. And then when we start these projects, it's like we start from the technical requirements, what the technology should do. And it's like you have to start with the people. What do the people need? And many times, right, exactly what you said, that people will tell you, well, I want something that is easy to use and all that, which is so generic that you don't really get to the bottom of the, well, like for example, in this case, like it has to work through the calendar or something like this, because they don't have the language. So somehow you're supposed to get that information.
That's it. And I know, and I get on this soapbox and I get frustrated when people, exactly when they start with technology, or even before that, they start with cost cutting measures. And I understand are we in a global recession? We're going there.
We're trying to avoid the word.
But there's a lot of concerns economically, and I think even at other times, of course, there's always an attention to the bottom line, whether it's in a law firm or in a business. But I go back to that idea that has been espoused by many very successful CEOs, of that you take care of your people take care of your business, and then your business takes care of the bottom line. So you have to start with the people. So when you bring in bottom line first, that's never going to be successful. When you bring in technology first, that's also not likely to be successful. Start with the people and then go from there. It takes more time. Yes. I mean, I'll be the first to say that. But when you're looking for long-term success, I think you have to set it up in that way.
And there's a brilliant saying that goes like, take the longer route, it's faster, because then you avoid this like, oh, it didn't work, we developed this like 6 months and nobody uses it. But when you bring in the people from the beginning, it may take a longer time, but then it's actually faster to get the results that you were after in the first place.
I love that. I'm going to use that. That is exactly exactly it. Yes. Yeah.
So what do you think what do you see are the biggest results, or what's the biggest value in using human-centered design in law?
I think in some ways you just hit on it too. It's more of that long-term success. I can tell you my ultimate goal, and I think I touched on it a little bit before, is that when I get really honest with myself of what I really want, I want to see women and historically excluded communities. I want to see them stay in the practice of law, and I want to see them ascend to the leadership levels. I really do. I can't always put that on my proposals to my clients, because that's not maybe we would like to implement a new technology and have our attorneys work more efficiently. Okay, but secretly behind the scenes, that's really my ultimate goal, and that I want to see. I want to see the profession change. I believe it can. I am an optimist every day, all day. I love the practice of law. I love lawyers. I love these little stressed out, analytical minds. So many of my best friends are attorneys, and were attorneys even before I became an attorney. And I truly just want to make the practice of law a better place. And I think we can do it. We just need to step back and look at it. So again, maybe that's not always the business's goal. And the law firms, I think some of them are starting to get there, especially when you have a lot of retention issues. We're also seeing a lot of either lack of succession planning or failed succession planning, where you do have the baby boomers who are retiring and they go, oh, who are we leaving this firm to? Who's going to carry this on? Oh, you haven't thought about that? Well, we need to put some planning in place. We need to get some training, some mentorship. We have to make sure that this is a place and an environment where attorneys can succeed and your clients are happy and they keep staying as well. So when I know we were talking about long-term success, I think I'm really talking about generational success in the future. That's my big goal in doing all of the work. That's my rose. That's what gets me out of bed in the day and talking and really preaching this message.
That's so beautiful, and I love your optimism, because sometimes, because I'm a true optimist myself, and because there's no other way. We have to believe that there is a change coming, and we are trying to kind of make that change in our own ways. But there's like these great resignation numbers are, they can be really, I don't know, sad, because we know, just like you said, that the lawyers actually love the law. So many lawyers really love the complex problem solving and their ability to help people. But then the way we do the law is so broken.
I know, and it is as I touched on too. I can't blame. It's no one person's fault. It's sort of the system that we've been raised in, but that makes for such a great opportunity to step back and look at it. I was really impressed at the conference that we were both at. I heard there was one presentation by a small law firm, and they talked about how they did quarterly retreats. And I thought, I don't think I've even heard of a law firm doing quarterly. You think of annual partner retreats. Well, one, let me just offer some free advice to that. If you're only talking to your partners alone once a year, A, that's not enough. B, you're not including everyone in the room. You need to be including your clients. You need to be including your junior associates. You need your paralegals, your admins, your tech staff. I'm not saying you need to shut down the firm for a couple of days, but you need to get a 360 view, because you're missing out on so many great perspectives, because those are the humans that work and to contribute to the law firm. But to go back to like a quarterly idea session, just half a day, they just gather ideas, they check in, and I thought, that is it, and that is it. So that's once we understand how we don't have perspective, then it's our opportunity and responsibility to go get that perspective, to step back. If this resonates, again, if somebody listening to this resonates, yeah, talk to other people and say, can we talk about how we do things? Can we just take 2 hours, the beginning of the year's coming up, and say, what do we want to accomplish this year? What's going on? Having just that conversation to spark those ideas is so helpful, and it will make the practice of law better.
And it doesn't have to be so complicated. You can just start talking to people and take some time to do it.
Just start talking. I think there will be, and that's where many legal professionals, some ironically avoid conflict, because we know how to do it in a procedural sense. I know how to fight with people in court, but that's because we are following a series of rules. And so creating those safe spaces to have the difficult conversations among us is invaluable, because once we get that safe space where we can open up and say, I have ideas. I don't want to feel shamed for having my ideas, but I want to share my ideas. How do you have a brainstorming session? And having a brainstorming session where there's no bad ideas. The idea, you don't have to come up with ideas that actually work. You come up with ideas that are, you had $5 million. You had a jetpack. What do you do? Having lawyers get there, because I do think lawyers are some of the most creative people. And they don't think that they are, which is so sad. So sad. But think about all the ways that those attorneys coming up with all the risks. they were analytical. They came up with this. They were creative. They find ways to write the contract, to get the thing, to how do you organize the discovery to make your case in court? How do you get around that new government regulation so that your client can continue manufacturing? We are so creative, but we tend to police ourselves and shut down even our own ideas and our ideas within. So going back, if I've said it 2 or 3 times, creating that safe space, every idea is welcomed. Ideas that won't work are welcome. Let's talk about that. That's it. Just get in a room. Get in a room.
Yes.
Talk to each other. Yes.
Yes. Hey, what are you currently working on?
Yeah. So currently it's very exciting. I am serving in a legal transformational role, basically in-house in a corporation. So it's a fun, very different opportunity. I've done in my consulting, it's been much more specific. This is really transforming a legal organization, almost like a fractional legal transformation officer type of role. So that is a lot. There is, when we talk about people, process, and technology, it's all of those. But again, like we've been saying, it's starting with the people. It's really starting and having those human conversations, getting a cup of coffee with them and asking them, what do you love about your job? Let's not mess up something that you like. How can we enhance that? And I think that is really the place that many of us should start on a lot of these projects. So stay tuned. I'm sure I will have a lot on the other side of this, of lessons learned, mistakes that I made, because we all make mistakes, but I can't wait to learn from those, and probably a lot of also great successes to see what comes out of the other side of that.
Oh, sounds like a perfect match with your skills and everything that you do. Hey, it's been so fun. Will you just tell us where can people learn more about you if they want to reach out or find you?
So I met you and some other fabulous individuals on LinkedIn. I tend to be on there a couple times a week and keep checking in. So check out, you should typically just find me, Laura Hartnett, Hartnett, all those T's, on LinkedIn. Love to share ideas, love to connect, love to hear different perspectives. It's so fantastic. Or of course, my website is Laura Hartnett, LauraHartnett.com. And on there, I also, again, true to my original roots on how do we present ideas in a different way, there is a download over how to avoid a legal memo and how to present legal ideas in 5 other different ways. So helping you go, here's when you can use a chart, here's when you can use a table, here's some examples. And so that might just begin to give that spark of ideas and that creativity of, we could do that differently. So always happy to chat with individuals.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you so much for being here and sharing these insights. It's been so fun and so many good practical insights as well. So kind of places to start right away. So
so glad.
Thank you
for
again.
having these important conversations too, as we help the legal world think differently and get into that new and better mindset. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. And hey, happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I am so grateful for you. That's the beautiful part of this holiday, of telling people of sharing what you're grateful for. And I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for this community. And I'm very grateful for this enjoyable and exciting morning for me conversation.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And thank you
Bye-bye.
everybody for joining. Bye-bye.